28 червня працює медіа-центр Україна Укрінформ. Мене звати Світлана Чепоренко. Я вітаю всіх з Днем Конституції України і дякую Збройним силам оборони України за те, що вони боронять наші конституційні права, свободи, нашу гідність і честь. А зараз ми будемо говорити про початок переговорів про вступ України до ЄС та останні рішення ПАРЕ. І з нами на зв'язку Євгенія Кравчук, членкиня постійної парламентської делегації в ПАРЕ, заступниця голови комітету з питань гуманітарної та інформаційної політики. Пані Євгенія, вітаю вас. Пані Євгенія, чуєте нас?
Yes, I can hear you. I don't know what language to speak.
Я чую вас, не знаю, якою мовою говорити, тому що я чую...
Ukrainian or in English?
Пані Євгенія, можете говорити українською, зараз наша
Well, you can speak English. A technical team is going to correct this mistake. Yeah, I've warned you. So, the Parliamentary Assembly of Council of Europe, during their meeting on the 26th of June, has approved 3 resolutions related to Ukraine. So let's talk about the legal aspects of Russian aggression. We're curious, how does it bring us closer to establishment of the tribunal and recognition of Russia as a terrorist state by the world? Well, in fact, the Parliamentary Assembly of Council of Europe recommends creating the tribunal by signing an agreement between the countries, between the 46 member states of the Council of Europe. So it's a way broader organization than the European Union, with an option to have other countries join this list, just like it was created with other tribunal when the Council of Europe has created another register which was joined by G7 countries, but United States, Canada, and Japan, everybody put their signatures there. So it doesn't mean that we're only limited to those 46 countries. The number may grow. It's clear that the PSC does not adopt all those resolutions, but they work as recommendations for the cabinets of ministers. And on top of that, it will be a new task for the new Secretary General. On Tuesday, the Parliamentary Assembly has elected Alain Berset, the former Secretary General of Swiss Confederation, who will start his term in September, and it will be his task to define how we will be moving forward with this new tribunal establishment. And we appreciate the work of all of the task forces, including Anton Karnezhis, the special representative of the MFA of Ukraine, who spends a lot of time with partner states, a lot of meetings related to this tribunal, and it's clear that that a tribunal may be established in The Hague, because the Netherlands announced previous years that they are ready to be a country for this special tribunal. Yet another important resolution is related to the sanctions. Can you please tell us what is the role of this resolution? Can we expect those sanctions about Russia, against Russian Federation to be expanded? Well, this resolution has a pressure effect. It contains a list of what is not contained in other sanction packages. We've seen the 14th package of EU sanctions that came up just recently, and certain part of the decisions are already taken. For example, the ones related to the transit of liquefied gas. But it's not enough, because the EU countries continue importing the liquefied gas. And just a couple of months ago, there was an information surfacing that Russia went ahead of the United States in terms of exports of liquefied gas to EU, and General Assembly recommended to fully reject import of liquefied gas from Russian Federation. Yet another thing is a shadow fleet. Russia uses the tankers of other countries under other countries' flags to export its oil and petroleum products to circumvent the sanctions, so it should be solved too as a problem. And what is of concern to us as Ukrainians who live under missile strikes all the time is that we keep finding the microchips in those destroyed missiles, which were imported from the Western countries like United States, European Union, Great Britain. So this option of procurement of components through the third countries to be used in the missiles that are targeting Ukraine. So Parliamentary Assembly recommends to fully eliminate such an opportunity for Russia. And one of the recommendations is to establish the register of the companies that help Russia to evade the sanctions. The resolution about countering the eradication of cultural identity is extremely important. Can you please give us more color about that? What is its meaning for Ukraine? Well, here I can talk even more. I was the author of this resolution. I worked 2 years putting it together, and I appreciate the input of the Office of Prosecutor General, National Police, Ministry of Internal Affairs. I've seen the reaction on social media. This topic is of concern to a lot of people, and it's an element of hope that culture will not be forgotten and our cultural heritage will be renewed. So what is this resolution about? So relying upon the facts, upon the evidences of the witnesses, including those coming from the temporarily occupied territories, I try to explain that eradication of cultural heritage, the culture of Ukraine, prohibition of Ukrainian books and burning them, prohibition of study in Ukrainian language, pillaging of Ukrainian museums, it's done so they can be able to say that Ukraine does not exist as a cultural phenomena. All of the monuments to Holodomor are already disassembled or destroyed in the temporarily occupied territories. It's an evidence of a systemic campaign of Russia that should be accepted as genocide, as genocidal intentions, genocidal campaign in the broader sense. Because Russia does not only kill Ukrainians physically and tortures them, but it tries to eradicate the Ukrainian identity. This is what happens to the children who were abducted and who are currently staying in Russian Federation in different parts of it, in re-education camps where they are being attempted to be transformed into Russians. The children are being issued new passports, changed their names so that they can be found and returned to Ukraine. They're being adopted by Russian families, which clearly constitutes the genocidal intentions. Well, there was also a number of resolutions supporting the media. Well, you were also someone behind those resolutions, specifically about countering propaganda, countering misinformation. Can you please give us more detail about those resolutions? Well, it's just a start of this work. I was appointed a reporter on gender stereotypes in media, and I urge all of the colleagues to get involved. Those stereotypical roles that men and women have in the media, they influence a lot of things, such as political choice, hate speech, when there are discussions of what women are wearing rather than what they're saying, or what cars the men drive rather than what they're saying. But I would rather touch upon a different resolution to be prepared by PC. It was based on the round table that we've established during the session. So it's related to the Ukrainian journalists held in captivity. At least 30 Ukrainian journalists are being currently imprisoned and tortured on a daily basis, specifically for their work. The occupiers, they had the list that contained the pro-Ukrainian activists' names, the journalists, because the journalists disclosed their war crimes. This is why they should be shut down, locked up and shut down. And Alain Perset, as a new General Secretary, attended this event, this round table, as the newly elected Secretary General. And right now, I was present at the meeting of the Bureau of PSC, which decided to support the application for resolution that I've submitted together with the Liberal Alliance to prepare a resolution about the imprisoned Ukrainian journalists and search for the legal mechanisms to set them free. So such resolution will be prepared by the Committee of Culture and Science of PC. Okay, so let's proceed to the second part. The accession talks are already in progress. Can you please tell us what are the resolutions already approved within that framework and what are the steps to be taken? Well, you know, this week is historic. We have to remember this date as a historic date, the 25th of June 2024, you know, and when 2 years ago President Zelensky, Prime Minister Shmyhal and Ruslan Slavchuk, the head of the parliament, were submitting an application. It was looking like a fantasy, but thanks to the work of the Ukrainian armed forces, thanks to the intense work of the Ukrainian parliament, all of the government team, thanks to the leadership of Volodymyr Zelensky, we got the ball rolling, and it's basically yet another stage, you know. The stage will be the ratification of our membership, but there's a lot of work to be done between those two dates. 6 clusters that should be opened and closed. So starting from July, we start the official screening of our legislation. We'll be starting working in clusters and in negotiation teams. The negotiation task force is headed by Olga Stefanishina, Vice Prime Minister. I'm humbled by the fact that Alexander Kornienko, first deputy head of the parliament, will be a part of this group, and those task forces will be working on clusters and specific sections. Well, currently the contemplated term is 10 years. Like in 10 years, Ukraine may become a member of EU. Do you think that's a realistic figure? And can Ukraine do it faster? Well, you know, Brussels says that it's gonna happen until the end of this decade, until 2030. So this is when EU is supposed to implement its internal reforms to be able to accept new member states. And obviously Ukraine has to set a sooner deadline. We have to do it thrice faster to demonstrate political unity, because for many countries, specifically in the Western Balkans, due to the fact that we were waiting for the negotiations to be opened for a long time, the level of support of EU has decreased. Our level of support is more than 80%, 83, 86%, and this is what's going to motivate the politicians to work faster and to take necessary decisions. Hungary proposed their conditions for Ukraine for its accession to EU, quite controversial conditions. And what will be the reaction of Ukraine? Well, we should rather better read those conditions than repeating them here during the broadcast. I was developing the amendments for the legislation in terms of national minorities, the use of the national minorities languages in education and in media, and we've adopted that variant of the text that is based on European Charter of Regional Languages. Obviously, you know, Hungary is going to stay with us forever. I mean, as long as we are not yet a part of European Union, and as soon as we join, the first grants for cultural diversity will be provided. Will be open to negotiation and cooperation with the ethnic communities, national minorities who are the citizens of Ukraine, who fight for their country in the front lines too. Well, thank you, Ms. Yevgenia. Let me ask the journalists if they have any questions from the floor. Well, now that we don't have any questions from the floor, thank you very much for your answers, for your comprehensive explanation, and I wish you have fruitful work in PACE. So once again, happy Constitution Day to everybody. Glory to Ukraine. Stay tuned.